What up? What up? I've been MIA for a bit for a bunch of reasons. Number one, this really hasn't been a great year for boxing. I've been a little bit annoyed with some of the fights or lack thereof. There's been a couple of good ones. Fury Usyk. Um, what else was a really good fight? There's been a couple. I'll put it like that. Haney Garcia was good. Uh, what else? Like, again, not important, but I've been in and out of the hospital. I've been having a lot of issues. Also, I don't have my fantasy hockey league running this year. So there's a lot of things contributing to less of a volume of videos being put out. That being said, let me give a shout out to my man Steve because he gave me a good idea for a video here. And he's one of the few people that I can talk to, and when there's some sort of, I don't know if I want to say disagreement or whatever it may be, he's one of the only people that is able to kind of like articulate that in a way where it feels like something is learned rather than something lost, which is what happens a lot of times when I have conversations with people. So the idea that he gave me was to make a video about scoring a boxing round, and this is something that I should have thought of prior, because for a bunch of reasons. Number one, just for general lack of knowledge. There's a lot of people out there that are into boxing and not only don't know how to score a boxing round, but don't even know that there's actually 4 specific criteria that are used to score a boxing round. Now, in general, when you want to keep it as simple as you possibly can for somebody, it's kind of easy to give somebody a little rule of thumb of, listen, you don't really understand the sport. You're not ever going to get into it. You're just watching a fight. You want to know who won the fight, right? You give the person the simple point scoring system. This guy won, it's 10. If that guy lost, it's 9. If he goes down, he loses an extra point. It's 10-8, whatever, right? Well, how do I decide who won the round? Just pick the person that you would rather be in that round. The problem with pick the person that you'd rather be in that round is, again, a good way to simplify things for people that are really not boxing fanatics or don't really totally understand the sport. They're seeing 2 people fighting rather than seeing all these tiny little things, from the feints to where the guy's foot is to this to that they don't understand and don't recognize how important these things are in a fight. So the general lack of knowledge is one reason that the video needs to get made. Obviously, another reason is I don't want to say that I've been running out of content to make, because I certainly haven't. I've just been busy. I've been having health issues. I just really haven't been in the mood. Boxing is having a subpar year as compared to the year before, so it's just been a combination of a bunch of things. But this is something that I should have made a video on, not only because people generally don't really know it, but because I'm into boxing and I'm a content creator. So again, I appreciate the idea. So first and foremost, let's break it down, because if you're not aware, there are 4 specific criteria used to score a boxing round. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and then I'll go back and I'll break down each one for you. So the 4 things that you're supposed to use to score a boxing round are effective aggression, defense, clean, effective scoring, and ring generalship. Okay, so when you want to know who won a boxing round, you have to go through each one of those 4 things individually, and you have to decide at the end of the day who had the upper hand in that round and why. So let's start with the first one, effective aggression. And I'm glad that we're starting with this, because this one is important. This is a big mistake that a lot of judges make. And let me be clear before I explain this, what I personally prefer, so I can show you guys how I'm not going to include my bias in this explanation. I love Arturo Gatti type fighters. I love Diego Corrales type fighters. Again, I understand the sport enough to appreciate a guy like Mayweather, to understand what I'm watching, and to appreciate a guy with defense and footwork and head movement and stuff like that. But again, for me personally, especially before I did understand the sport like that, I was always a fan of these come forward, you know, you may be a good boxer, but I'm going to beat you in this fight type of fighters. I've always been a fan of those guys, not only because they typically make for good fights, but because they're also typically the underdogs. And even when they're not, that kind of makes it even better, because it's like, well, you could probably just easily cruise to a victory with this guy, but instead you're coming forward the whole fight. You're charging at this guy. You're making the fight when, you know, you're the champion and really this guy should be coming to beat you. So aggressiveness is usually going to make for a good fight, an exciting fight, especially for the person that doesn't really understand the sport. Now, that being said, we can't just give the round to the guy who's being aggressive. And I see this mistake being made a lot, where a round is close. I've actually seen this a lot in the Bivol versus Beterbiev fight, and I'm not going to call that fight a robbery. It was a super close fight. I thought that fight could have gone to either guy. I thought the fight could have been a draw. I didn't think Beterbiev was like overly aggressive, but he was certainly more aggressive than Bivol. But again, it's the key word here is effective, okay? You have to effectively be aggressive. So, and I'll cue in a perfect example here if I'm able to put the clip on. I'm very aggressive in my fights, at least with my feet, okay? So I'm what I like to refer to as an aggressive counterpuncher. So my feet are very, very aggressive, but my hands are not so aggressive. So I like to put a lot of mental and physical pressure on the person while coming forward and not giving this person a lot of time to think or a lot of time to utilize their footwork or their boxing ability and stuff like that, okay? There's a lot of times where I'm effectively aggressive. In my fight in the Golden Gloves, I was ineffectively aggressive. I was coming forward almost the whole fight, but that doesn't mean that I was being effective. When the dude is using his feet, okay, when you're coming forward and the dude uses his feet to pivot and turn, right? His back might have been against the ropes, but because you came forward and he pivoted, now he's spun and put your back against the ropes, okay? That's ineffective aggressiveness. And we'll touch on this more when we get to ring generalship, and I'll go back and speak to effective aggressiveness. But again, you can't just chase a guy around the ring. You have to be able to get a guy in a corner if that's what you're trying to do. You have to be able to get a guy's back along the ropes if that's what you're trying to do. You have to be able to land scoring shots, right? That's why you're coming forward. You're not coming forward to get punched in the face. That's not your goal. That's not what your plan is. That's not why you're coming forward. So the fact that you're coming forward or chasing after a guy does not necessarily mean that you should be getting, you know, fucking brownie points in the round just because you're moving forward. Again, if you're effectively aggressive, or the other guy is running away and doesn't want to engage, sure, your aggressiveness should be factored in and should be working to your favor. But if you're ineffectively aggressive, that should actually be working against you. If you're just charging in on a straight line and this guy is, you know, sidestepping you, putting you back in a corner, putting you along the ropes, or throwing a jab and getting out of there and never getting hit, and you're not doing anything effective, that should not be working in your favor in the scoring. The second thing is defense, and this is pretty straightforward to a certain extent. So your defense is important. Now, there's all different ways to look at this. Again, let's take a fighter who's coming forward, right? If they're having a lack of defense while they're coming forward and they're getting hit as they're coming forward over and over and they're not landing the same amount of damaging blows that their opponent is, again, it doesn't really matter that they're coming forward because that aggressiveness is actually being used against them. Same thing with defense. If I'm coming forward, but I'm maybe not necessarily landing all the shots that I want to land right now, but I'm also not necessarily getting hit, that's going to work in my favor of being effectively aggressive, because now I'm able to be aggressive. I'm able to cut off the ring. I'm able to get where I want to get in the ring without being punished, without taking shots, without paying a price for actually coming forward, because I'm utilizing good defense. Now, again, there's different ways to utilize defense. We could go on and on talking about these things. You have to understand the sport to a certain degree to really give a really good gauge and a good score of who won a boxing match. That's why it kills me when people tell me, oh, this guy won. Well, how do you score the fight? I just 10-9, 10-8. No, I understand that, but how are you coming to the 10-9, 10-8 conclusion? What are you basing the round off of? Oh, just fucking this guy was better. Bro, listen, I'm sorry, but we can't even really have this conversation. You actually don't even know what you're talking about. And you may be right. Maybe you were right. This guy did win the round, or maybe it was very clear, right? This guy dropped this guy, and nothing about the round was close. It was clearly a 10-8 round. Okay, cool, we got that. But we're talking about the total of a fight. How did you come to a mathematical score when you actually don't know how to break each round down? So, again, going back to the defense thing, we could use that on the flip side, right? Your defense is important. So, let's say both guys are showing a lack of defense, right? Sure, there's going to be other things that are factored in there, but the defense is important. So, when we have a scenario where, okay, again, let's say that one guy is the aggressor, one guy is using his feet and backing up and stuff like that, but the aggressor is getting hit coming in and his defense is not really on point, whether that's due to a lack of defense by him or whether that's just an incredible offense by the other guy, doesn't really matter. Now, let's say the person who's backing up and using their footwork and stuff like that is not being hit. They're not getting pinned on the ropes. They're not getting stuck in the corner. They're not getting clean shots landed on them. They're shoulder rolling. They're catching everything. They're blocking with their guard. They're dipping shit, and they're getting out of there, right? That's good defense. So, again, if one guy is utilizing good defense and the other guy is not, that's a check in the box for the guy that's utilizing good defense. You may sit there and say, he only threw 25 punches that round, and he only landed 8. Okay, great. But did the other guy throw 40 and only land 2? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's ineffective aggressiveness. We can't just say because this guy threw 40 punches, he won the round. Well, but he outpunched the other guy fucking 2-1. He threw 50, this guy threw 25. I understand that, but the guy that threw 25 landed more shots. He was more effective with his shots, and his defense was better. So right there, off the bat, that guy's winning that round based off of those two criteria. So again, keep both of those factors in mind in many different facets. You could be aggressive, but are you being effectively aggressive? Right? You could have good defense, but how are you utilizing the good defense? Is it head movement? Is it a high guard? Is it your footwork? Are you coming back with counter shots off of your defense, right? There's a lot of things that go into the sweet science. The third thing is clean, effective shots. Okay, so again, this kind of goes back to effective aggression and defense a little bit. So if person A has a better defense, but person B is throwing more shots, okay, they're throwing more shots, but again, are they clean, effective shots? Are they landing at all? Are they mostly missing? Are you only landing 15% of your shots, right? Because you could be throwing a lot of shots. But if the other person has good defense and good footwork and you have ineffective aggressiveness, you're throwing a lot of shots. You're probably tiring yourself out. You're not landing a lot of clean, effective punches. This also gets furthered by when somebody hits hard, right? So that is a factor in a fight. If you have person A threw 50 shots and they landed 20 of them, right? Person B threw right around 50 shots, right? But they only landed 17 of them. All right, well, they both threw around the same amount, but this guy landed a little bit more, right? Okay, well, this guy landed 20. This guy may have only landed 15, but this guy's 15 were very fucking damaging. The other guy was wobbled twice in the round. Even when he was blocking the shots, they were going through his guard, ripping his guard down. You can tell that every time this guy... Wilder is a perfect example, right? If you have Wilder landing 15 or 20 shots a round, you're probably not winning that round, bro. Because the chances are, especially if those are clean, effective shots, he's probably hurting you, bro. So you might have landed 25 or 30, but his might have been more effective. Again, Just because his were more effective doesn't mean he won the round. We still have to factor in defense, and we still have to factor in effective aggressiveness, right? So now we have three things that we're paying attention to. So if one guy is only winning one of those aspects and the other guy is winning all three, the other guy is probably winning the rounds, right? So again, keep all this shit in mind. We can't just point to one thing. We can't just say, well, this guy's punches are having a bigger effect on this guy than this guy's are having on him. Okay, but is every other thing in every round being dominated by that guy? Because if so, we have to score those rounds for that guy. And the fact that this guy's shots might be more damaging, that's part of a breaking down process, right? How tough is this other guy? How good is his defense? How much is this guy going to tire out? How late will this guy carry his power? These are all factors. So if this guy's really causing the more damage consistently throughout the course of the fight, the other guy might still be banking rounds, but is probably getting broken down and might wind up getting stopped late. And that's where you have these scenarios where one guy's face is marked up, but the other guy is technically winning the rounds. But then he winds up getting stopped late because of a cut or because he got broken down and he tired out from keeping his feet moving so often the whole fight because the other guy was putting on effective aggressiveness. Right? So again, you have to keep all these factors in mind and you have to weigh what's really taking a toll on people and what's really winning people these rounds. The last thing that you have to pay attention to, the last and fourth final criteria for scoring a boxing round is ring generalship. And a lot of people don't even really understand what this means. A lot of people revert ring generalship right back to effective aggressiveness, which is not really the case. So some fighters are aggressive. Some fighters are defensive. Some fighters are volume punchers. Some fighters are counter punches. This is why we say styles make fights, right? Because it's not as simple as a boxer always beats a puncher or a guy with good footwork always beats, a tough guy that can take a punch very well. It's not as simple as that because we have to see which guy can find a way for his skill set to overcome the other guy's skill set. So when you talk about ring generalship, we're not talking about who's chasing who. We're not talking about who's being aggressive. We're not talking about who's running away, so to speak, right? What we're talking about is who's doing what they want to be doing, okay? And in a case like Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman, that was probably very hard to tell, right? Because at the end of the day, we found out that Ali wanted to be on the ropes. He wanted Foreman to be punching him because he wanted to tire Foreman out, and he wanted to, again, break him down late with effective shots, okay? Watching that fight, you're also thinking that George has Ali exactly where he wants him, right? He's got Ali on the ropes. He's pounding on him. Ali wants to be in the center of the ring, dancing around, landing jabs. Foreman's got Ali on the ropes the whole fight. So in that particular scenario, that was probably being mistaken as Foreman having the ring generalship. So the reason I give that example is that's an example where judges or people watching may have been getting it wrong. And that's not due to somebody's lack of understanding of the sport. That's because we didn't know what Muhammad Ali was really doing. And that's what made what he was doing so mind-blowing, is nobody really saw that coming. Most times it's not that complicated. It's pretty simple to tell, right? Like when you have Mayweather Maidana is a perfect example, right? The ring generalship in that fight belonged to Maidana all the way in the first half of that fight. Sure, Floyd was landing the cleaner, more effective shots, even though Maidana had him where he wanted him. But the point of me saying that is when we're talking about ring generalship, just that 1/4 of the round being scored, that was heavily favoring Maidana. We know that Mayweather doesn't want to be on the ropes, being pushed on the ropes and smothered and having a guy right on top of him trading haymakers and shit like that. We know Mayweather doesn't want to be doing that. He didn't come into the Maidana fight and say, you know what, I'm going to keep my back on the ropes and just trade haymakers with this guy the whole fight. We know he didn't come in with that game plan. So when you see Mayweather's back on the ropes the whole first 6 rounds, that ring generalship is going to Maidana because you know that's where Maidana wants the fight to be. Same thing with, we could flip that on the flip side of that, right? If you have Muhammad Ali or a Floyd Mayweather or somebody like that where they want to use their footwork, they want to use their jab, they want to keep the fight on the outside, they want to keep the fight in the center of the ring. And they're fighting somebody like Ricky Hatton or Joe Frazier or something like that who is coming forward and trying to press that fight, trying to get you in a corner, trying to get you back against the ropes. If Ali or Mayweather is able to keep that fight in the center of the ring and keep circling around and not allowing themselves to be put against the ropes or put in a corner, that is both ineffective aggression by Ricky Hatton and Joe Frazier, and it is good ring generalship by Floyd Mayweather and Muhammad Ali. I'm not saying that that's the way those fights panned out. I'm just using fighters as an example of when when a certain guy is coming in with a certain type of game plan. If that guy's game plan is to get fighter B on the ropes and punish him, and he didn't get fighter B on the ropes not once throughout 7 rounds, we understand that fighter A is controlling that fight and is getting the ring general aspect of that fight. So again, sure, you have to watch boxing a lot. You have to understand the sweet science to really dive deep into this thing and understanding why you're giving certain rounds to certain people. But there are the 4 criteria for those people that didn't know that there was 4 criteria to score a boxing round. There are the 4 criteria, and there's me breaking it down for you as quickly and simply as I possibly can. Again, there's going to be 150,000 things to learn about boxing. I'm still learning about boxing. I've been watching the shit intently for over, 30, 35 years. I've fought for a long time. I'm still learning a tremendous amount of shit. I wish that I could have my 21-year-old body back right now with the knowledge that I've learned even just this past 2 years in boxing. I would have won a lot of fights that I lost had I had the knowledge that I have now. But that's not the way life works. You live and you learn. So just because you know what the criteria are, don't think there isn't anything more for you to learn. And just because you don't know what the criteria are doesn't mean that you're clueless about boxing. You may give pretty accurate scores most of the time. But again, it would be difficult for me to sit there and watch a football game and give you the correct score at the end of the game when I don't know that a field goal is 3 points, a touchdown is 6, an extra point is 1, and if you run in the extra point, it's 2. If I don't know that, right, and I see the green team, convert 8 times and the red team only convert once, I might be able to tell you at the end of the game that the green team won, but my score is probably not going to be accurate because I counted everything they did as 1 point and everything they did as 1 point, so I had them winning 7-1. When in reality, the score might have really, been 21-7 or 21-8 or something like that, right? So you might get the right person because you saw enough to understand, well, this team definitely won, but you didn't really know what you were talking about or what was going on or how to properly score everything. So I didn't make this video to be a dick, although there are plenty of fucking people that I would love to rub this video in their face for sure, but wasn't the intention of the video. It was a general knowledge video. If you really like boxing or you're interested in understanding how to score a boxing round at all, there it is for you. I implore you, please, if you really are one of these people that insists on arguing with people about what the scores of the fights were, it's especially weird to me when you have professionals that are being paid to do this, and then you have somebody sitting there saying, wow, that judge is garbage, they should be fired, they got that wrong, that was a robbery, and then I ask you what are the criteria for scoring a round, and you don't even know that there is criteria, let alone knowing what the criteria is. Come on, bro. Like, I just can't really listen to you bash another professional. Even if by chance you happen to be right and they did fuck the score up, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So you really don't have a leg to stand on. So please, if that's you, learn something from this video. Go on and learn more from this video because there's plenty more to learn. But there are your 4 criteria for scoring a boxing round. Again, shout outs to my man Steve. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for the suggestion. Thank you for the new material on the page. And I hope everybody learned something. Peace.